birdie num num.
When I have understanding of computers, I shall be the supreme being. God isn't interested in technology. He knows nothing of the potential of the microchip or the Silicon Revolution. Look how he spends his time. 43 species of parrots. Nipples for men.
Don't do that, Jesus Christ! You're gonna get me killed! Out of here!
Oh, Billy.
I have nipples, Greg. Could you milk me?
Welcome, everybody, to AB Live. Yes, we are still in a world where men have nipples, and you cannot milk those nipples, according to the introduction I said. But Birdie Num Num, it doesn't matter, because the Gnosis will take us to places of experience and ecstasy and true knowledge, and that's why we are here. My name is Miguel Connor, and I am still your Pompadour of Gnosis. And happy St. Patrick's Day for those of you who celebrate, you boondock saints. I don't think I'm wearing green. And, my cat just knocked off my, the cat just knocked off my, oh boy. I might have to jump out. The cat just walked by when must be a Scottish cat or something, but just knocked off my my camera. But anyway, yes, I'm not wearing green. And as soon as I said that, it disappeared. But after many years in my youth, 20s and 30s, managing and working at Irish pubs, St. Patrick's Day is more of you might say, a trauma a little bit, because those were some wild times, especially when you're on the other side of the bar. So other than that, we are very excited today because we are doing the sequel of a 4-part series. Last time we got some amazing revelations on Azazel, the Anunnaki, the Watchers, and so forth. And this time we will be discussing Prometheus and Lucifer. Wow, so talk about bringing the movie A-list, the actor A-list when it comes to the occult. But why not? Why not shoot big? For that, we are very excited to have David Block. David, how are you?
It's nice. Thank you for having me. And nice to be back. Busy week, but I survived. Cold in Sweden, rainy and boring weather.
Yeah, agreed. Here it's kind of those mixture days. One day we have rain and it's not so cold, and the next day suddenly we get a whole bunch of snow. So spring and winter are sort of struggling with each other, if you know what I mean. So and with us too, we've got the Moondog Vance, the Gnostic. How are you, Vance?
I'm good. I'm fired up for this nice light show for Prometheus and Lucifer. Get it?
Nice.
You know? Yeah, fire, Prometheus, Lucifer, light, all that stuff. Maybe we'll find out why Lucifer got to be the light bringer and then he became the dark bringer. Well, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's an interesting piece of history, right? David knows that.
Yeah.
So great.
Yes.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, why don't David talk about while I try to get my camera working and try to find this evil cat where she is, get her out of the room. Maybe give a little summary of your last presentation and tell people about where to find your channel. In fact, I'm going to put it up here too, because so many people asked last time. Let's see where.
Thank you for asking. I have a Swedish channel and an English channel. The English channel is Hermes Trismegistus, and the male is amphitheatrumalchemy. Amphitheatrumalchemy, a little bit hard word, I know. At gmail.com, and subscribe. I will try to put up some more information and videos there. I have had a busy year in Sweden, and the last year as well. A lot of lectures in Sweden, and more and more people are asking about lectures in Stockholm. I will try to have more time to work with my channel as well. So subscribe, and I will try to add movies there and esoteric stuff. I will focus on the esoteric, but some conspiracy theories will leak in as well. But my focus is the esoteric. I think that it is the esoteric method that will save humanity, not the knowledge about the conspiracies. But sometimes it's good to know what's happening as well, and sometimes they are linked together. But my main goal is to lift up my fellow man, or the human race, because I think we need it, or I know we need it. And this part are going to be about that. And of course, Lucifer and Prometheus is all about the spark and fire, to ignite the spark within man. And that's the main part of this lecture as well. I'm going to talk about history and so on, but really this is an archetype within us as well. And the date and the years when things happen is not that important. But I will try to give you a timeline, but don't miss the main part. And the main part is that these forces are playing out in us as a species, and are in full show today as well. We are just going in circles, and these forces and these struggles will always be with us as a race, and it is something we have to transform or to overcome. That's the that's the most important part of this. So please don't get caught up in dates and so on. The history of it, it's good to know, but we can only speculate when we come to history as well. So.
Agreed. Again, as I mentioned earlier, it's about the experience, the release, the ecstasy, the bliss that you get from these things. And yes, for the audience, I will have it on the show notes, his YouTube channel. It's called Hermes Trismegistus, but I'll have the address itself. So check out David's work on the site in English. Yeah, other than that, before we get started, a couple of quick announcements. And since I made it public today, the Astronosis conference is coming. The sequel will be here at the end of June. Part of it will be on John the Baptist feast day. So we can all lose our heads, because the topic this year will be the Archons. It's officially called Meet the Archons. So it's June 23rd and 24th at the Theosophical Society in Wheaton, Illinois. Truly an amazing place that I have been many times, and has some spiritual energy that will uplift you. A campus with a lot of choices for meditation, prayer, and other spiritual tech. A library that's to die for, with some amazing tomes, and just a very cool place. So that will be there. Get your tickets now. Right now, if you use the code Surprise Archon, you get 20% off as an early bird, and those will go up probably at the end of this month. And our guests are incredible. As the keynote, we will have April DeConnick, whose work on Gnosticism is unparalleled. Richard Smoley, who has written for decades on the esoterica, but has focused on Gnostic thought throughout history. Sarah Elkaldi will be there to discuss the trickster. And of course, this will include the Archons. Her presentations and talks are amazing. And my friend Mitch Horowitz will be there to discuss some non-corporal stuff. You know, with Mitch, it's always a blast, and it's always unique. Chris Knowles will join us again, and he will be talking about the ultra-terrestrials and how they are Archons. James True will be discussing mythology on Archons. We've got Vance, we got Steven Snyder, who's also going to give us an incredible presentation that he is finalizing. Still working on a few other guests and surprises, but there will be social event, Q&A panels, and much more coming for the Astronosis. So get it now, because last year was huge success, and best of all, it was a lot of fun. The magic happens in the Q&As and the hanging out and meeting these amazing people and their insights that you won't get anywhere else. So that's Astronosis for you. And if you have any questions, of course, please reach out to me. Other than that, at Aeon Byte, the great shows continue. Next week, we will have Tom Montauk. And if you haven't heard of him, you better, because he just released a book called Gnosis, where he talks about the Demiurge and the Matrix control system. And it's an incredible interview in how he brings in the idea that the Ark and the Grail and much of alchemy is this technology that's been corrupted by the Archons and is keeping us asleep here at the wheel even today. And other great shows. Alex Rivera will be talking, I will be making public a presentation he did on some amazing gods, including Mithras, Saturn, the Demiurge, of course, and others, and he will bring this all together. So the themes continue from this show forward, and of course through Astronosis. So check it out, and as always, thank you for your support. Please support so we can continue bringing you these red pill suppositories that crack real good up the rectums of reality and bring so much enlightenment. Appreciate you being here. So why don't we just get started now that I think I've done the whole housekeeping. Oh, and of course, sorry, and then I will shut up because I'm sure you're getting tired of listening to my dribble. But if you have any questions after the presentation, as always, question marks, all caps, and there's no guarantee that we'll get to them. We will definitely try. We will do our best. But if you have a super chat, we will make sure that you get your question. Or if you have a complaint against us, of course, super chat your complaint. We believe in free speech here. Other than that, yeah, why don't we get started, David?
Yeah. All right. Part 2. Prometheus has fallen. And this is about Lucifer, and Prometheus is a mask of Lucifer. Lucifer has many masks, and you can argue that Azazel is one of his masks as well. And there you have the connection between Lucifer and the Watchers, because Azazel is a Watcher, a fallen angel, or what you want to call them. And Lucifer has a very big part in this saga. And Lucifer is the one I have had connection with most of them. So I will try to do this justice. I will try to do him justice. And some of this doesn't come from me, but from Lucifer himself. But that doesn't mean that I know everything, because you have to connect the dots. And they are sometimes very vague. But I will try to make him justice. Sometimes
not, he'll leave you a bad review on Yelp or Google, right? He'll give you 2 stars.
That would be horrible. Lucifer have been a very good help for me and very good friend. It's not the one you think is, or he's sometimes referred as an androgen. And I will try to explain who he is and what he's all about. But he has many masks, and I'm going to talk about some of them, because if you know some of Lucifer's masks, you know also what is happening and why. Next slide. So I want to make 4 statements before I start the presentation. That these statements are a premise before the presentation, so we can set the stage, so to speak. And in this Anunnaki gods, you can say you have 4 distinct groups, and we discussed them in part 1. You have Enlil, and Enlil is also religion, the Abrahamic religion, Semitic religions. He's Jehovah, Yahweh. And you have Enki, and Enki is referred to as the devil by the Enlil line, of course. And you have Marduk, and Marduk is another line, and Marduk got the main role of the gods, the younger gods, by defeating Tiamat. And you can say this is also an archetype in man. So you have Enlil, an archetype in man, you have Enki, an archetype in man, and Marduk, an archetype in man, and you have Ishtar. And Ishtar is Enlil's daughter, but Ishtar is more of a rebel daughter. You don't know really what you have her. She's loose, and you cannot trust her. She can change side. She can go over to Marduk's side. She can go over to Enki's side. She can go over to Enlil's side. So you have to, you don't know what she's about all the time. Like a runaway teen daughter kind of thing. And you can see these 4 archetypes in man. If you take the first category, beliefs, and Enlil is about collectivism, but Enki is about individualism, and Marduk is about individualism under restriction, and Ishtar is about individualism. And mental state here, you have Enlil, follow authorities. Enki, self-reliant. Marduk, esoteric oligarchy. Ishtar, self-reliant. An outcome, Enlil, restriction. Enki, freedom. Marduk, freedom under restriction. I'm going to come back to what I mean by that. Ishtar, freedom. So we can see this in our fellow man. And what is playing out today in the open. The one who follows authority, I think is very important with society rules and to follow them. That's Enlil line, the collectivism, follow authorities, restriction to hold back. And you can see the person who doesn't obey or question things end up in the Enki archetype. There you find individualism, self-reliant, and freedom are very important things for them. So you can see these 4 archetypes playing out in man. And you will see these archetypes playing out when we are talking about what happened here, because these archetypes are coming in different ages and are playing out in this circular timeline. But we can break free of it, but it will always come back to these forces on a mental battleground, if you will. Next slide. And the other thing is the idea of reincarnation. And this is important because otherwise it doesn't make any sense of what we are talking about. The same character, gods, titans, demigods, heroes, and humans will come back. Nothing really dies. You die, but you are reborn again. New body, maybe new name, but come back. So if you kill a god, doesn't mean the god is dead. It means for now it's dead. It can come back with a new name and a new kind of role to play. Similar role, but a new role. And that goes for you humans as well. You can use esoteric method to get a reincarnation you can remember. So you can remember past lives through esoteric method. That means you can continue with your what you did the last time around. So you can have like plans for generations to come. If you know that you can start it all over again in your new life. And I think that was a given before in Nephilim or the upgraded humans, and it didn't like. Because if you live hundreds of years, and if you can remember your past reincarnation, then you can plan for the future, and you become a mighty man, a man of renown. Next slide.
Okay, here you go. I'll be right back. I gotta let another cat out. Go ahead.
And the third thing, very important for my presentation, is the Kardec scale. And it's about civilization technology and what type of civilization we are in. And in this scale, they are measuring the amount of energy used, and the civilization are able to use. If you're a type 1 civilization, it's able to access all the energy available on this planet and store it for consumption. But a type 2 civilization can directly consume the energy of a star. And I argue that we have had such a civilization here on our planet before, and that was during the time of Atlantis. And this is very important, because what I am saying is that the technology was very powerful, and the outcome will be quite devastating. I think technology destroyed Atlantis, not a comet or something, because I think the technology was that advanced. They could have defended themselves against comets and stuff like that. So I argue that they destroyed this civilization with technology. And the gods and the wars between Titans, Olympians, the North mythology, the Vedas are talking about this period. Let's next slide. And now we have the timeline of Atlantis. And of course, this is just a guesswork. But I think maybe Atlantis started 20,000 years BC. And I think it ended 12,000 BC. Or rather 10,500 BC. Sorry. 12,500. And the Golden Age, and the end of Golden Age, then it became harder for the Titans or the Watchers to take physical form on the material plane. So this time when they can take physical form on this material plane comes and goes. Depends on how the star is aligned in the heavens. I argue that 16,000 BC, the right rule goes over to Marduk, Zeus, a demigod. And this is very important to understand that he's not a god, he's a demigod. If you miss that point, it's hard to understand why this Zeus character seems to be not that bright. It's not all-knowing. He makes mistake. He seems to be foolish. He seems to be corrupt.
All right.
It's because he's half human, half god. And in the Anunnaki text, of course, the Anunnaki god ain't that nice either, even though they are gods. But Marduk is half Anunnaki, half human, and make mistakes. And he cannot see that far in the future or in the past, as, for example, Prometheus. Because Prometheus, Lucifer, is a Titan. He's a totally different being. 13,000 BC, Prometheus and his sons join Zeus. And I would argue here that it's a kind of an infiltration, but there are much more than this. And I will try to explain it later on, what happened. And this is in the text about the Greek myth. I would argue that Marduk Zeus becomes corrupt by power. He wants to take control of the stargates and technology. Made by Prometheus, Poseidon, Atlas. During the Atlantis era. And here is one thing many have missed, I think, and that is Poseidon, Enki, is father to Marduk Zeus. Poseidon is father to Zeus. And maybe it's deliberately, or maybe it's just a mistake, or maybe sometimes it's hard to, compare myth because they don't overlap always. And sometimes you have to. But that's an important part here, and I think I can make it work in a logical way. 12,500 BC, war breaks out. And I argue that Atlantis went under ice. And the reason for it I will come to. And I think the answer is in the north, the Asa myth, about the Asa mythology, the north myth about Thor Odin. And I will try to explain it here and make these different stories become clearer. Yeah, next slide. So this is the premise. You have to keep in mind through this presentation. Now we come back to these 4 archetypes in man, because these 4 archetypes are also different religion and esoteric paradigms. And as I said, if you follow Enlil, you are a Semitic religion, you are a religious person, like Christianity, Islam, and then it's really Jehovah or Yahweh. If you follow Enki, you are a Luciferian. Then you're on left-hand path, an esoteric anarchy, in brackets. That is to say, you don't have to join a specific group. You can become more, you can transform yourself through your own work. And that this knowledge should be free for all and not bound up by esoteric organizations that choose who's going to have access or not. That's the reason why I say esoteric anarchy. And then you have Marduk, race of Marduk. There you find Mardukites, Freemasons, OTO, Thelema. Now I'm not saying that all Freemasons and OTO members are evil or that no one shares information, because they do. So they are don't take them for like dogmas.
Right.
They are good Freemasons, so don't get me wrong. I like Manly P. Hall. I like to read his books.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Sullivan's book is great, Royal of Freemasonry. So, yeah. Ishtar is witchcraft, like Wicca. And these 4 archetypes, we can also find them in religion esoteric paradigms. People who search for rules and regulations and collectivism also draws to religion. And of course, if I have to choose here, I am an Enkiist. But that's a little bit a simplification, so I will make it a little bit deeper here, because you can have different ideas even though you're an Enkiist, or if you're a Luciferian. Next part. So let's say you are in the archetype of Enki, Luciferian, then you can have different goals. And you will find these goals in these people. And you can say that my goal is to end the reincarnation circle. And I have it in brackets because it's not really the Luciferian way here. But what they are saying is this. Yes, we recognize your free will. So if that's what you want, and if you want our help to do it, we will do it. But if you ask us, we think it's foolish. But we are not the Marduk. We recognize the freedom in the human race to choose and be free and be self-sufficient. Some of the Luciferian will say that I want to become a god on the material plane. And thus the Watchers like that idea, because what they want is to become gods with you here on the material plane. But as I said, they respect your free will. If you want to break the reincarnation, certainly go back to source. Okay. And the third option is become a god in a metaphysical realm. And this sounds very esoteric, and it is. It's like saying that you can create your own realm in the metaphysical and become your own god there. When your body breaks down, you have created your own matrix reality where you are your own god. And this free option you will find in a Luciferian. And next slide. I call this part Peace and War. And a little more of this timeline stuff, and then I will go where we have this different ages. So from 10,800 to 8,650 BCE, the age of Leo was the astrology sign. And then you have Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Aries, and age of Pisces. Now, the age of Leo, age of Cancer, and age of Gemini, we know very little about. But what happened there? I will give you an answer, but it will be a little bit, I will take it later on, but remember that. What's important here for now is the age of Taurus, because age of Taurus started 4,350 BCE and ended 2,200 BCE. And that's Enlil's first period to reign after the flood. Yeah. And the age of Aries from 2200 to 50 BC, that Marduk's first period to reign after the flood. So it became a Pax Romana, Anunnaki here, after this. It is to say, your age to rule Enlil is under the age of Taurus, from 4,350 to 2,200 BCE. And that sounds silly, but there is a logic to it, because if you're going to restart a civilization, then agriculture will be the first to start. Because after agriculture, then you can start civilizations, but agriculture is a given. And as I said in the part 1, Enlil is a farmer god. His line is farmer gods, and you have the shepherds, Marduk and Enki's line. First, you need agriculture, and when you have agriculture, you have a surplus of food, and then you can start to create civilization from there. Food is a given, but with it comes pestilence, comes all kinds of problems as well. And one problem is that civilization and humanity increases in number. And when humanity increases, then there will also be a push to control the masses, how many people they should have. And this is a problem, because then the question of sacrifice come in, when they deem that we are too many. Yeah, next slide. In part 1, I mentioned Sargon, Moses, and Cain. And we have two possibilities here. And it was a lady who mentioned one thing, and that an important thing. I don't know if I made it very clear before. But the idea here is that Sargon, or Moses, was there to usher in the age of Aries. And that's the reason why he had horn in Michelangelo's statue. He's there to usher in Moses' age. So it's Aries' age, or Marduk's age. Mm. And when he come down from the mountain, they are worshipping the bull, Enlil's age. Hey, wait, we are changing age here, guys. and he get pissed off, of course, and horrific scene. But we have two possibilities here. One is that a coup is staged, because in one source they mentioned that this Sargon really lived 3750 BC. Then it's a coup taking place, because Arius is supposed to begin 2200 BC. But if Sargon, Moses is the same person, 2300 BC, then he's a little bit fast on the trigger, but he's still in reach of 2200. It's like 100 years from the supposed shift in ages. And you can say he tries to usher in the new age during his lifetime, and does it a little bit too early. Therefore, they have the right to worship the bull or Enlil's age still. And that's the story about this Mount Sinai, or the Ten Commandments and Moses story. And now you can start to understand what they are trying to say there in the Old Testament. And there's one more important piece here I want to mention. Next slide. And that is, of course, that you have this Ten Commandments is an Enlilite construction. You can take the next slide, Miguel.
Sure.
The Ten Commandments is an Enlil construction. It seems on the surface like 10 commandments. This you have to do, or otherwise you will be punished. There are rules, regulation to hold you back. It seems to be a Yahweh construction. But this is what Azazel said, and this is very important. The Ten Commandments is a coded esoteric message planted there by the watchers for you to decode under the demiurge and Archon's praying eyes. If it is revealed, it becomes a powerful esoteric message and method. So this war over the Old Testament goes both ways. Mm-hmm. They can stuck in esoteric secrets there under the nose of this demiurge for you to decode. And when you do, you see a totally different message in the Old Testament. So to cast out the Old Testament, to say it's an Enlilite construction, that's a huge mistake. If you decode it and try to understand it, you will find very deep esoteric meaning in it. So this infiltration goes both ways. And if you view the Old Testament as an Enlil Jehovah construction, there are coded message the other side have put in there for you to decode, for you to empower yourself under the demiurge's eyes. So don't give up on the Old Testament.
No, there's a lot of Sophia in there. In fact, Sophia is literally hidden in there.
Yeah. And there you have it. Yeah, next slide. And Lucifer is talking about different ages, and this is very interesting. And he mentioned the fact that we are in the fourth age, the fourth turning. And according to him, we are in Kali Yuga right now. This is the age of darkness and destruction, violence. After the Dark Age, he says, the age of violence and darkness has passed, that we would then return to the Golden Age. We are quite close, but it will be strife. It will be a hard time ahead. But it always be like that. Always be a hard time before a Golden Age ends or starts. And Lucifer states that man is going to begin to open up gateways, tunnels through space and time. This is already going on. is going on magically, it's going on scientifically. And there you have it. And it's maybe quite discomforting, but the elite have technology, very powerful technology, and they are very close to the technology level they had during the time of Atlantis, I would say. So the fifth age is the golden age, and maybe it is the age of Piscis, 2150 we're talking about. But remember, this date ain't exact. Of course not. It's not like New Year's Eve and you can fire up some firework and then you enter golden age. Give or take 100 years plus or minus, or maybe more, but we are quite close. That is his message, not mine. And you live in a very important time, and you are very important. Because you and me are going to usher in the golden age. Cannot be passive. Next slide. So back to Atlantis, and please bear with me a little bit. I'm going to deepen the presentation before with new layers. So we peel it like an onion. So we are coming back and we will address some of it again, but in a more deeper way, and answer some question I'm sure some people have had. We have some main character in this Atlantis saga. Of course, the gods who started it was Atlas, Prometheus, and Poseidon. And one important thing to understand is that Poseidon is really an Anunnaki god, an older Anunnaki god, and it is Enki. And Marduk is Enki's son, and Marduk is Zeus, and Enki is Poseidon. So what is happening here? It's a war between father and son in some ways. And this is nothing new, because in the Sumerian myth, these Anunnaki gods are waging war against each other all the time. But here you have a father-son war going on. And this is also an answer to why Prometheus turns to Zeus and tries to make peace with him. Because Prometheus think that Marduk should be on their side. Sure, he's the Olympian gods, the Olympian god king, but they are really a mixture between Enlil Anunnaki gods and Enki Anunnaki gods. And Prometheus think that Marduk, Zeus, is on their side. Or he would go over to their side. But he's hardly mistaken, because something has happened in Zeus. He got corrupted because of the push of the force of the material plane, all the temptation. And this is also very is a very important story for esoteric people who try to transform themselves. What kind of pitfalls they can fall into? Pride, think they are more than others, start to want money and power and prestige. And I think that's the why I am not into this Marduk line, because I think if you start esoteric organization and you start to be about money, power, political, then the corruption will creep in. Doesn't mean that every one of them are corrupt, but I think in the end they will start to conspire against the human race instead of being a part of it. And I think that is what has happened today and happening. So I think the best way to do it is to have this information open for all who want to have it, not a chosen few. Otherwise, it will be used for bad purposes. It will be corrupted. Other gods involved in this Atlantis is Kingu. And Kingu is Belial. It's the same person, same Titan watcher. And this is important, very important when we come to North mythology. I will come back to it. And then I have, of course, Marduk, Zeus. This is the main character in this story about Atlantis. Next slide. So here we have them, and they have different ideas, different agendas. And Zeus have the right to govern questioned by Enlil, but Enlil is in the background in the start of this Atlantis story. But he will come in the end. He's a demigod, becomes corrupted during Atlantis period. As a son of Enki, he have an interest to keep the stargates open, but the stargate should be under control, to keep out the Titans and Watchers, at the same time have them open. No mortal should gain access except for a chosen few. That is his goal. And to keep the Titan and Watcher at bay at the same time he has the stargates open is harder than you think. And of course, if you're an Enkiist and you have to choose between Enlil and Marduk, you choose Marduk because it takes you one step closer to get access to the material plane.
No.
So they are much closer to each other than Enlil and, let's say, Marduk. Next slide. And then we have the main character, Prometheus, Lucifer, and he's a Titan and Watcher. And Watcher, yeah, you can have it in brackets, but as a mask of Azazel, you can say is a Watcher as well. His goal is to steal fire from the gods to give it back to humanity, the spark or lux corporalis, allied with Enki, a common interest between them, the stargates. Fighting Enlil and Marduk, Zeus. Enlil want to close the stargates. Humans will be trapped in the material matrix, Earth under him. Marduk want to control them under a chosen few, an elite. That makes them his enemies, both of them. Because he wants them open all the time. And for humanity at large, or all humanity, to have access to them. And he considered it to be our birthright, to be able to travel the stars. Not controlled by a chosen few, not entrapped by Enlil, closed off from the stars and from the bigger cosmos. Next slide. Then you have Enki. Enki Poseidon. Poseidon is the name in the Greek mythology, but it is the same person. Enki fight to keep his stargate open, and his stargate is Sirius, in order to have access to the material world. Marduk is his link to the material plane when the time is right, because when the star shifting position, the stargates is closed or open. And also, it's very important to have access to technology. But you can do it also from within. You are a stargate in a way. But technology is important for Marduk and Enki, but but for Marduk it is more important. And we can see this later on after the deluge with the Tower of Babel story. But the Mardukites try to build this Tower of Babel, a stargate. Yeah, next slide. And then we have Belial or Kingu. And this is very interesting. Keep him in mind. Technology and DNA is his thing. He's talking about DNA a lot, the human DNA, and the importance for you to ignite it or turn it on, and that you have 22 strands of DNA shut off. And the Luciferian or Prometheus flame or spark of fire is to ignite this dormant DNA within you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the spark, that's the fire he stole from the gods to give mankind, to ignite, to transform. And Belial Kingu state, your ascent requires destruction, for your kind are the great destroyers. I take that again because I will come back to it later on. Your ascent requires destruction, for your kind are the great destroyers, Belial state. And Belial Kingu fighting Enlil and Marduk Zeus. And here's the reason why I talked about reincarnation circle before. It's because he had already fighting Marduk as Kingu. And in that Sumerian myth, Marduk defeated Kingu. But it says we have Kingu's blood within our veins. That means that you can always access the watchers through your blood DNA. They cannot shut them out, they cannot keep them out, but they can make it harder for you to get access to them. They can keep them farther away from you. And one way to do it, of course, to shut down the stargates or close off planet Earth from outside. And that's exactly what Enlil Jehovah wants, because he wants to keep his power. He is the demiurge. This is his material prison. You can also say that Marduk is the demiurge, because Marduk or Zeus have become corrupted by power, and he starts to control his technology and the stargates as well. But his idea is that a chosen few among the humanity should have access to the stargates, but not humanity at large, not humanity as a family, not you. And that's a problem, according to me, because corruption will come in. And they will use it against you. And they will say that, yeah, the stargates, we should open them, but under the nose of humanity. And we should use this technology. And they will not know the difference. That's very, very dangerous, because the gap between the chosen, so-called the chosen ones, and humanity will just increase. Mm-hmm. And in the end, they will start to feel they are not part of the human race and start their own agenda and their own business and black budget projects and so on and so forth. Next slide. So Prometheus or Lucifer stated, I existed, I exist, I will never cease to be. All that is around you can be called temporary or illusory, because it all eventually shall fall. But I live forever. I am immortal. I am Lucifer. He will always exist. They cannot shut him out. They can make it harder for us to access him. But that doesn't mean that he doesn't exist. He exists, and you can contact him. You can, and they want us to have contact with them. The biggest weapon Demiurge have is to call them evil, and they are the one who hurt the human race, and they are good. The Demiurge and Lilith are good, the Christian God. They are God. They are good people and follow rules. Wait for Jesus, and then they die and come back. Nothing happens. They will not transcend this demiurgic prison. And for the most part, it is a mental prison for our mind. Mm-hmm. And Lucifer has stated that our medicine are weaponized against us. The music industry are weaponized against us. Our school system are weaponized against us. Everything are aimed at us to keep us down, to shut us down. Religion is there to keep us down, to tell us that we are useless or bad people or sinners or wherever. So for the most part, this demiurgic prison is a mental prison. But there comes time, will come and go time windows where it's easier to get access to these forces. And sometimes it will be harder. And of course, this is something Prometheus Lucifer knows. And Prometheus is a mask of Lucifer. And one more mask of Lucifer, very important, is Janus. Janus is also a mask of Lucifer. And Janus have two faces. One can see the future, or foresight, and one can see the past. And also he can see in the metaphysical realm and also in the material realm. And Marduk, Zeus, a demigod, knows that Prometheus Lucifer can see the future, because one of his masks is Janus. Therefore, he imprisoned Prometheus on the Caucasus mountain and let an eagle peck his liver in order to see what Prometheus can see in the future. Because he's a demigod, he's not as powerful as Prometheus Lucifer. And he does mistake, he is foolish. And Prometheus knows this. So Prometheus have this foresight, he has this plan, and it comes in stages. I will give it to you here. The world will end. Fire will end the world, and water will start a new one. Enki will save his bloodline, Noah, from Enlil or Zeus. I will plant a spark in Nama, Noah's wife. And Nama is also Lilith the younger. Marduk, Zeus are going to open the stargates again after this war. It will take us one step closer to the material plane again. Zeus want to know what Prometheus know and punish him for stealing fire from the gods, or lux corporalis. To plant it in Nama, Lilith the younger, and this Nama is on Noah's Ark. Mm-hmm. That's how they survive, or this spark survive after the deluge. And Prometheus know that Enki have an interest to save his upgraded dragon blood, the Nephilim. because it's the Nephilim. Enki's upgrade bloodline is Nephilim. And the Watcher have planted a spark within the race of Nephilim to upgrade them further. And because Prometheus knows that Enki's interest is to save his race, he planted this spark and let Poseidon save Noah. And I will come back to that again soon. Next slide. So we have some different ideas about ages, and the Indians are very interesting. They are talking about 5 suns and the sacrifice. And the myth goes like this: Jaguars, a hurricane, fire rain, and the flood destroyed the first 4 suns. After the 4th sun was destroyed, the god gathered to choose a god to become the new sun. A boastful and proud god offered himself up for sacrifice. So the sacrifice is bound by right-hand path or to hold back. Religion is talking about sacrifice. It seems to come with a sacrifice to hold back. To hold back humanity requires some kind of sacrifice in the beginning and in the end. It's like an energy bubble growing because they have shut down stargates. The energy had nowhere to go. So in the end, this sacrifice needs to take place. And the agriculture I talked about earlier ended. If you keep this long enough and humanity doesn't progress, they are still in this agriculture prison with a lot of food, then the prison will be overcrowded in the end. And then the sacrifice starts, or the war, or the deluge, or the end of a sun age take place, because it has to be like that. No choice. If humanity is held back, this will be the outcome. So if you say Enki are evil, well, I think Enlil are evil, because this is the outcome of it. Fire and rain destroyed the 3rd world, and a flood destroyed the last one, or started the last one. And I will argue that it started the last one, the flood. Fire and rain ended the 3rd sun. The fire and rain destroyed the 3rd world, and water started the 4th world, I will argue. Yeah, next slide. So in the Norse mythology, you have a character, a god named Tyr, and a wolf called Fenrir. And this Tyr sacrificed his right arm in order to keep Fenrir in chains. Right arm, sacrifice, body part, to hold back, to keep the sun going. The sun needs to burn. And humanity should live in harmony, in a position of comfort but imprisoned to do the work. But in the end, it will end up in strife and warfare anyway, because the human race will be too many, overcrowded, and then the sacrifice will start. But you can prolong this by sacrifice. You can prolong this holding back phase by sacrifice. And they are usually talk about the sacrifice to the sun, or to some kind of sun god like Moloch or demon Moloch. And Moloch is also a sun god. And the Vatican have raised a Moloch statue outside the Colosseum in
Right.
just a note here, because this is not only stories. This is very real. I'm not telling you this for just for entertainment purpose. There is a terrible truth to it. So there's a link between right-hand path, sun worship, and sacrifice. Tyr sacrificed his right arm to keep Fenrir in chain, and Fenrir is like a huge wolf. It's not like a small wolf. It's a huge bastard, and he will like destroy the world if he isn't in chains. And therefore Tyr sacrificed his right arm to keep him in chains in order to prolong the creation, or this world we live in, this sun age we are living. Next slide. And Fenrir have two sons, Skull and Hati. And Skull is the main villain. And in Edda, a poem called Voluspa, and we come to the Swedish name here, so it becomes a little bit hard. I will pronounce them in Swedish, but Fenrir was imprisoned on a mountain called Jöl. Here he waits for Ragnarök, and Ragnarök is the end of the world and beginning of a new one, or a new sun age. The end of one sun age and the beginning of a new sun age. And here he's waiting to get unbound in order to destroy the world. Fenrir and his two sons, Skull and Hati. Next slide. Fenrir was set free by an earthquake, so they say, but there is another truth to it, and I will come to that. But it was Fenrir's son, Skull, who swallowed the sun. And I argue for technology here. I argue for this. Fenrir and his son is a symbol for technology. They can turn on and off a sun, or to take energy, or to drain energy. And I think they have such technology during the time of Atlantis. And as I mentioned in the beginning, this Cardassian energy scale, where you have a type 2 civilization, can use and manipulate star energy. And I argue that Atlantis was such a period. They have access to this technology. And there you have the start of Ragnarök. And the Ragnarök is the end of the gods. And this is, of course, the Asa gods, the northern, but it's the same gods as the Anunnaki, the same gods as the Greek gods, different name. Same gods, same story, different name, but more details or other details that the others have missed, or purposeful, or maybe choose not to have it in. I don't know. But that's that is what I think. Next slide. So you have this Fenrir or Skull, but you also have a giant called Surt. And Surt was a fire giant. And he had a big sword, brighter than the sun. That ain't bad. I have some in Swedish here as well, because they are lying a little bit, so I want to make something more clearer.
Right.
Surt is the one who kills Freya, one of the goddesses. And Freya is a god of fertility and stuff like that.
And she's hot too.
Yeah, exactly. And And I apologize for Surt's behavior here, but it's war, you know. And
Yeah.
he slashed Freya in two. And
Like
she
Darth
died.
Maul, huh?
Like Darth Maul. Horrible. But in
Yeah.
war, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it says that the waves from after this fight and the fire engulfed the earth, and the ground was shaking, and the water was flowing in. But what I think they are saying here is a little bit more complex, because if you swallow the sun, first you have a period of ice and snow, but then it will be an interest in humanity to start the sun again. And when it does, then the snow and ice will melt. And I also think that the stargates get damaged by ice and snow. Therefore, there is an interest from Enlil's side to have this war between Marduk, Zeus, and Prometheus. And also there is an interest for Zeus to destroy or take control over this technology they have in Atlantis. They both have an interest to take hold of Atlantis technology and what's going on there in order to control humanity in some shape or form. Enlil, by to totally control, the demiurgic prison is open for a while, and he wants it to come back to a state of enclosure. Marduk wants to take back the control of Stargate under a chosen few. It shouldn't be open to humanity at large, but controlled. Yeah, next slide.
Yeah, God of Light, remember that? Restart the sun.
Yeah. So here we have Ragnarök, and we have something called Fimbulwinter in the Norse mythology. And Fimbulwinter is the period where snow and ice will cover the earth. And it says for a long time, but it doesn't say how long, but just for a long time. Doesn't sound too great. And I think because and this is very important, the humanity during this time was for the most part Nephilim. And the Nephilim is a harder crowd to kill. And the human race started to freeze to death. And as it says in the Norse mythology, the humans froze, or the Asa froze, and even the giants was freezing during this period. Everyone was freezing, but didn't die. And how can you live without the sun? Well, you can't, but what I'm saying is that they didn't shut down the sun completely, but drained it. Second, their technology, they could stain and give them warmth, but damaged, but not broken, some of it. But it became a matter of time before they would freeze to death. Second, and this is very important, I think there have been a period in our history where humanity went underground in order to survive. And if you have technology that can sustain you and give you warmth during this period, you can survive. And if you are a Nephilim, you can survive. Better than a human, because it doesn't only say they were great in stature, but they were great men, men of renown. They were mighty and powerful warriors. And the Watchers state that they were not only great in stature. Remember, they were mighty men, mighty warriors. And this is really something Enlil get pissed off about, because when the sun is turned on again and the water is coming in, he hoped to drain the Nephilim race, the giant race with the waves. He hopes to wipe them out with this flood. And I think there is a little bit convolution here, because he says that he wanted to kill man. Doesn't make any sense. No, he wants to rule over the human race, but kill off the Nephilim who have been corrupted. But Enki has an interest to save his upgraded race, the Nephilims. And he is the one who saves Noah and his race under the endless nose. And Prometheus, Lucifer, knows this because he is a friend with Enki, because they have a common interest in keeping the stargates open. Yeah, next slide. So what conclusion can we draw here from this myth or story? You have these 4 different archetypes and this struggle between them. And some conclusion we can draw. The war is going on between three factions: Marduk, Anunnaki gods, the Olympian gods, and the Asa gods. And Enki, the Titans, Ancient Ones, and the Watchers. And Enlil Jehovah, more active in the end of Atlantis period. Passive in the beginning, but I think he had an interest in this war for his own purposes. It is order versus chaos. Order requires sacrifice to be maintained. Chaos demands transformation and change. It is in darkness you will find the spark to transcend the demiurgic matrix prison. So to shut down the sun has more esoteric meaning to it. It is when you go within, the black sun within you, when you stop looking outside of you. The sun is bright and shining and everything is wonderful. You get caught up in this matrix and you stop search for yourself, for your inner meaning or who you are in all of this. Sometimes this strife, this wars, this struggle between these forces are important for humanity as well. We are transforming through these struggles, through these archetypes, through these wars going on. And as within, so without. What happened inside of you seems to take manifest form outside of you. In war, strife, gods. Next slide. Fire rain destroyed the third world, according to Aztec myth, and the flood destroyed the fourth world. Waves of fire and water destroyed the world, according to Asa myth. And I will highlight the word water here, because I think it started the fourth sun age we are in now. Who benefits? Marduk, Anunnaki gods, and Olympian gods, the Asa gods, want to take control over the technology, Atlantis. Enki, the Titan, Ancient Ones, and the Watchers, the world had to be destroyed in order to set man free again, because it had ended up under control under Marduk. Enlil Jehovah want to destroy in order to take control, the demiurge. Prometheus knows this. As the mask of Janus, he can see the future and he can see the past. He implanted the spark in Nama. On board of Noah, the spark survives, and it entered land again, or the material plane, under the nose of this demiurge Enlil. And it can be Marduk or Zeus have started the deluge. Some texts suggest that, maybe. And why would Marduk, Zeus started this deluge, or this water flow? If the technology is under ice and snow, then surely is an interest to discover it again. And then the ice has to melt. For him to get access to the technology, have gone under with ice and the snow and the waters. And Enlil have an interest because he want to, if the sun starts again and the water come and the technology come again, then it seems that Enlil draws the shortest straw. But the question is not if he is going to destroy it or not. The question is, he knows that Zeus will start it, and the one who started first get access to the technology because he's active and knows where to start. He's the one who started this race over this technology, to hide it, to destroy it, or to get it back under control and to use it. And Prometheus knows this, of course. Some of these Anunnaki gods will start the sun. Will start the fourth solar age again. And when it does, the water will come pouring in. And Poseidon will save his race, the Nephilim. Because it's his race. The upgraded human race. Next slide. Fenrir's son's skull swallow Helios, our sun in the sky. This war is fought with high technology. I argue for technology that can move solar energy between two suns, to turn a sun on and off, to take energy or drain it. Darkness is here, Fimbulwinter is here, our world turn into ice in an instant. And I will mention that they have found mammoth flash frozen with food still in their mouth. Stargates and technology get damaged or covered in ice and snow. We don't know how long Fimbulwinter took hold on humanity, but there were many who wanted to end it. Under ice and water, technology could be found, and with it, a premise to restart the technology again and take it back under his command. Hide it or destroy it, in Enlil's case. Marduk to take it back under his control, for a chosen few to control. Humanity was freezing, and even the giant was freezing, according to Azazel myth. Was it Zeus or Enlil who managed to turn the sun on again through technology? And when the sun gained momentum, the ice melts and the floods of water comes in. Next slide. So let's turn our eyes to Zeus first. Zeus Marduk. At one time, Zeus decided to annihilate the species with a deluge. Prometheus, who was still at large then, warned his son, the Apollyon, to prepare a chest or prepare an ark. It's the same story. Mm-hmm. This is one possibility. It can be Zeus who did it. He has an interest. He didn't like the fact that Atlas Poseidon and Prometheus gave technology to humanity at large. Next slide. And now I have a statement from Lucifer himself. Nama, wife of Noah and Solomon. This is the origin of your Rh negative blood. It was once condensed in the area of Mount Ararat, where the Ark of Noah was said to have settled after the deluge. This is also one way which the knowledge of the Nephilim remained after the flood. The golem god did not see the wisdom hiding in the illuminated consciousness of Nama, and so she was allowed upon the Ark of Noah. This allowed the fragments to be passed on through genetic code. It is the seed of consciousness and the salt of the earth. It is the lux corporalis or Luciferian light, the spark of Lucifer. That's the spark you have within you, you can ignite in order for you to transcend the demiurgic prison. It is within you. To awaken your DNA, your 22 strands of DNA dormant in you. They call it junk DNA. I call it lux corporalis. Yeah, next slide. And now here's one more twist, because when we are talking about who's the villain here, we have 3 villains, really, but a villain that has to be a villain. Belial whispered, "It was I, Belial, Kingu, who set Fenrir free. I broke Fenrir's chains." And this is a missing piece. This destruction had to occur. There was no other way. When Marduk or Enlil started to take over, the risk was that we would get stuck there under this technology oak controlled by these forces. A fall had to happen. We had to go into darkness again as a human species. We had to go within ourselves. And when we do, we will find this spark hidden there in the darkness as well, because Prometheus, Lucifer, has saved this for us through this Nama. It will always be there. Doesn't matter how dark it gets. Sometimes you will find the brightest light in the most dense darkness. Next slide. Two statements from Lucifer. I have taken my habitation in the dark core of the sun. I have taken my habitation in the dark center of man. I have taken my habitation not in the unknown, but in the unseen. And the second one, become the black sun, and this is to become nothing. Do not seek to expand yourself, but to withdraw yourself deep within. You will find then that all the solar force is at your command. My secret chamber is in silence and darkness. And he is calling the light bringer, because it is in this darkness you will find the spark within yourself. You don't need anyone outside of yourself. You need yourself. You need the knowing, the willpower, the force, the bravery to go there. Everything they have taken away from you, because this is a mental prison. And for these forces, the Watchers, Lucifer, the most important thing here was for the Anunnaki not to get hold over you with this technology they have raised and lost control over because Zeus have been corrupt and started to want this technology under the chosen few. And this is where we are at today. And I will make it very clear with another state of Lucifer soon. But this is a war going on right now. We have full circle right now. Next slide. And here's a statement from Belial. The 22 paths of the tree of knowledge correspond to 22 dormant strands of human DNA. The tunnels in the tree of Clifford activates the dormant DNA. This is the lux corporalis saved by Lucifer, came with Noah and Nama. In order for you to break free from this matrix prison built by the demiurge, Enlil, Jehovah, Marduk, Zeus, after the deluge. This is now, this is today, this is foresight. Because the Tower of Babel, everything that happened after the deluge was a struggle to reopen this technology, the stargates. Again. And when we come to these ages, endless turn to rule, there was a push also to get Enki back on track in Eridu in Sumeria. But it's hard for Enki to be active on the material plane, but it doesn't mean that you cannot contact him. You can always have a connection with the gods, but it is a huge difference to have a god like Zeus who can walk the earth among you and a god who can't. The farther away you come from the human race, the farther away you come from the humanity's memory of you or connection to you. That's the strength of Zeus Marduk. And that's the reason why he become the gods, the king of the gods or the god. But he wasn't a god. And that's his weakness. Prometheus, Lucifer was a titan. Mm-hmm. His weapon is foresight. His weapon is you. Because he planted the spark within you, the lux corporalis. His weapon is the human race. And if we ignite this lux corporalis, he is saved from Enlil, because this flood have more meaning behind this, of course, than only flood. It was a flood to snuff out the spark from humanity, the light, the technology, to keep us down, to keep us in materiality. And the first thing Lucifer showed me when I get in contact with him was the scene of Noah and the Noah's Ark. And now I know why. Because it is there everything starts in this circle. It's everything about in the solar fourth sun age is about that incident where Prometheus saved us for becoming the slaves of the demiurgic Enlil or Marduk. But Marduk is better, Marduk Zeus is better than Enlil because that archetype take us one step closer to the stargates and Enki. And I'm not going to say too much here, but there is a plan from Prometheus Lucifer still at work here. Because this Zeus Marduk faction are opening stargates with technology right now as we speak. And they better be prepared for what they can can come in. Because Prometheus Lucifer ain't stupid.
No.
Next slide. And this is a statement from Lucifer to humanity. This is the most dangerous state of mind the ruling class shall ever face, because by mankind seeing that they have nothing to lose, they will also see they have everything to fight for. Though most of the power that flows through the human race remains dormant, the sheer number of those awakening to the threat by my light will overcome the few who oppress the sons and daughters of Belial. Fear makes us weak, but it can also make us stronger when we realize we have nothing more to lose. Then we will fight.
Mm-hmm.
And if these forces are pushing us hard enough, we will ignite the lux corporalis. Not every one of us, but enough of us. And I am here to try to convince you that do it. We will win.
Yes, we will.
Next slide. So I try to talk through Lucifer here. This is not a channeled message, but as I know him. Zeus chained me on the Caucasus Mountains. He let an eagle take my liver in order to see what I could see. He is a demigod, and I am a titan. My eyes can see far in time and space, much farther than he can. I was tortured for your sake. Now you see what I saw. Now ignite.
Beautiful.
And this is the war. And for me, this is what Atlantis, the god's myth, is all about. And there are some misunderstanding that you have to understand if you're going to solve the riddle, like in the case of Enki. Why would Enlil create a human race and then want to destroy it? No, it was Enki who wanted to save his upgraded human race, the Nephilim. And of course, that makes us question, who was Noah? Was Noah a Nephilim? Nama had the spark. And I haven't got an answer if Noah was a Nephilim. But they state that when you slander this Nephilim race, you also slander yourself, because you're an offspring of the Nephilim.
Mm.
And you have this power within you. They have convinced you that you don't. And that is their most terrific weapon against you. To convince you that you are a worthless human, a sinful animal, or whatever they try to convince you of. And I know that these forces exist because I have been in contact with them. And so can you. And they warn you. They come with a warning as well. Be careful, but because the common year ahead will give you some terrible insight what this technology can do. And if you ain't prepared for it, you will withdraw in terror. It is better to be prepared, because this Marduk archetype faction have kept this technology hidden from you. The Tower of Babel get destroyed by Enlil, and Enlil ordered Ninurta to destroy this stargate. And Ninurta is Saturnus or Sorvan, Kronos, and Zachariah Sitchin writes in the pyramid text that Ninurta destroyed the pyramids on the Giza plateau, because there also is a stargate. So you have this war after the deluge from Enlil's side from Enlil's side to destroy the stargates, and from the Marduk side to open them or build them again, re-engineer them. And as Enki, as a Luciferian, it is better we go and build the stargates, because it takes us one step closer. But we have to understand that this elite, this esoteric oligarchy, doesn't want to share it with us. And I think that the gap between them and the other humanity have grown and become so big they don't even consider themselves to be among us or from the human race anymore. And that is a problem. If they feel disconnected from their brothers and sisters. And this is the warning, and this is the reason why I chose Enki or the Luciferian siders. The technology should be open for all, not in the hands of a chosen few who can manipulate us and use it against us. And it is in the rhetoric, because when they have control over this technology, they start to build temples to the gods, and in the temples they start to print money or mint money, and the bank starts and the infrastructure starts, and it's a good thing because we want this technology. I can speak to you, my brothers and sisters from all over the world right now, through technology. But if we don't know the rules of the game, then we are just in the dark. If we know, and we can say, okay, you can build your stargates and we are waiting for you. We know what you are doing, then we are prepared, we know what's going on. But if we don't know anything, if we are in the dark, we be just chess player on a chess game. We don't know the rules, how to play. We are played. Mm-hmm. That has to be ended.
Agreed. That was an amazing presentation. Very inspirational. Great knowledge. I know the people in the chat have been blown away by your research. So you've definitely hit all the right notes. Of course. Gee, what a coincidence. You had exactly 33 slides, David.
What a coincidence.
Pure accident.
Sure. I tried to have 30, but I couldn't. I was like, oh, and then it ended up 33. And I think it's a good Luciferian number.
Yeah, exactly.
The 33rd degree.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to state one thing more as well, and it is, of course, all this conspiracy theorists and the Christian are claiming that the elite are Luciferians and blah, blah, blah. They don't have a clue what they're talking about. And maybe the elite think they are on Lucifer's side, but they ain't.
Miguel, mute. You're muted. You're doing a moondog.
I am back. Yeah, that was an accident. Yeah. Speaking of, I need to go check on the kitties. So start hitting those questions if David has time.
Yeah.
That means I get to take mine first.
You starred yourself.
I did. But I think everybody will love this. David, don't you think that people don't recognize all these gods nowadays, but perhaps they're still with us in the form of what we call philosophies that countries and follow, like Marxism, capitalism, socialism, the religions, Christianity. It seems to me that there are direct equivalents.
Yeah, it seems to be in our blood, this stories, and it takes shape in different mental states. Like, the Marxist is materialistic Enlil worship, really, where you worship, control, at the same time technology, but technology, can I say, without the spirit or soul to make something more out of it. And of course, the Marxist philosophy is for the masses. They don't believe this themselves. For them, it's important to convince humanity what to think, but they don't think it themselves. It's order to control them, but they think behind behind closed doors are a completely different story.
Yeah. Let's get through some more questions too. I don't want to just do myself here. Hilly Caper wanted to know if you thought there was an equivalence between Lucifer and Hermes and Mercurius.
Yeah, Hermes is Marduk's son, or Amun Ra's son. Amun is the same god as Marduk and Zeus. Amun Ra, or Aten Ra. Hermes is Amun's son. And there is a connection there. Remember when Prometheus was put on the Caucasus mountain, it was Heracles who saved him. And Heracles is Zeus' son.
Yeah.
So you can see this family, this Anunnaki family, they are raging war against each other, and sometimes they are more closer to the enemy than their own family line. And I think we humans can agree that sometimes we don't feel part of our own family. We feel we are more in line with other people than our own blood. And this Heracles is also a connection with Hermes and Nabu, Marduk's son Nabu in Babylon and Sumerian myth.
Okay. Yeah, Occult Fan, who was nice enough to give us a rosy super sticker. He was wondering, and he had a couple of questions that are hard to read as a single question, but I'll boil it down to say that he was wondering if the Nephilim and Anunnaki, and like for example, and David, and were related to the bloodlines of Christ, and in general, bloodlines, the Holy Grail, Harry Potter, and the magic, and with the mudbloods and the pure magicians. That's what we're talking about with all this DNA talk and the gods versus the mortals.
Yeah, I would claim that Jesus' myth in the New Testament is a very complicated story, but one of the characters, I think the character Jesus in the New Testament is based out of 3 different characters, and one of them was had dragon blood in them, upgraded. You can say close to Nephilim. And yes, I think David in the Old Testament is very close relative to Nephilim, and I think Noah is a Nephilim. That's what I believe. They say that Noah prayed to the god after the deluge and sacrifice and so on, but you have to understand that there are much more to this myth than meets the eye. He tried to reach the metaphysical Noah, but he failed. That is what Lucifer told me, that Noah tried to push himself out of the metaphysical, maybe to end the reincarnation circle, or maybe to draw down more light, but he failed. And that's the reason why the boat took land, in a sense, because he failed with his metaphysical mission.
Okay.
And when he crash landed on the material land, yes, it says in the Old Testament that he followed the Tao and so on. But what I'm telling you is, when you're going to the metaphysical and when you push yourself out in the metaphysical, you have to be brave, and you have to be willing to push yourself and have a lot of fire. And if you get scared, then you try to get back to the material plane again. And what Lucifer told me the first time around was that you should push yourself harder, go further, don't take land, don't go back to the material. So it's much more to this Noah story that meets the eye. And this spark that survived and the Nephilim race that survived, we are, for the most part, a mixture of Nephilim and human in various form, and more or less Nephilim.
Yeah, I was wondering in that regard, if all these gods, is there any indication of how they saw us mere mortals? Did they think we're just clay Barbie dolls or something without any spirit in us, or did they think that we shared in some of the divine spark, the way the Gnostics believe?
Well, in the Sumerian myth, then El created man out of clay to be a slave race and a labor, just do the bidding. And it was Enki who upgraded us, and then we became the Nephilim with upgraded dragon blood. But it was the Watchers who planted the spark in us. But the Watcher was waiting for this Enki upgrade because the spark couldn't be implanted in a slave race because they couldn't take it. They couldn't house it. So there had to be an upgrade to this Nephilim race in order to plant the spark within us. So it goes from state to state. And I want to come back to this Heracles and this Hermes question and the Mercury thing. Is that Mercury as a metal is floating. So it's something in between the material and the metaphysical, and a connection there. Also with technology, if you want to use technology to the metaphysical, Quicksilver is something, Mercury is something that they use.
Okay, great.
For these purposes. So Hermes is a mediator, a go-between between the material and the metaphysical.
Right.
But under
communications.
Yeah, and under Marduk and Zeus, he become a chosen few. Give this knowledge to a chosen few. Under Enki, give it to everyone.
Very good. Higher Sophia wanted you to, who was hoping that you would mention the Midgard certain, Ouroboros and Valknut.
Yeah.
I know this might take a while, but see what we can do in the time we have left.
Yeah, the serpent to battle Thor and in incarcerated Earth. Yeah. What can I say about it? This snake and this chaos, you have it in Greek mythology as typhoon and all this stuff. And the Midgard serpent is with the Fenrir and his sons, the main chaos, the chaotic chaos who destroys the godly order. But remember, the God's order here, you have to understand, if you want to have this order, you will not have transformation for the many, maybe for the few, and in the worst case scenario, for none. It's not a good state to be in. But when we rebuild our society, then we need order. And that's also the reason why Noah sacrificed when he crash landed in materiality, because he had to start agriculture again. There were two options here. He can pray to Enlil or pray to Enki. He had to start over again with agriculture. They need food. And after that state, they can start to build civilizations again. But if you keep this under Enlil's rule, then the food and the humanity will grow and nothing will happen because we are restricted. We should be waiting for something, for Jesus. We should be passive. We should listen to authority. We should we are sinners, and it means that it will end badly with sacrifices. And you will find this look in the Vatican, and they're
Yeah.
they ain't nice.
Nope.
It cannot. It can only end in one way.
Many modern examples in some countries that I won't mention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very
We
good.
have to, but we're living in a very interesting time, because when we go from this chaos to order and build up, then we will come to a time where we are now, where if we understand this, what I try to tell you today, then we can take our chances this time around and end this circle reincarnation thing and go forward as a species. And that is the game here.
Indeed. Well, we better wrap it up. I know there's more questions, Vance, but we're hitting about 2 hours. For those of you who still have questions and you didn't super chat them, there's David's email flashing down there, or reach out to him through his YouTube channel. I'm sure he would be delighted to answer your questions. And of course, there will be a third part coming soon. So don't expect the intensity to end with the end of it. We're only halfway through the movie, and the climax is coming, right, David?
Yeah, next time up is Belial and specks of stardust. And then after that one, I will talk about what is happening today.
Awesome, yes.
Apollyon.
Whew. Well, then, do your meditations, people. Take some deep breaths, because the fun is just getting started. Belial, I remember him being the big enemy in the Philip K. Dick's The Divine Invasion. So,
yeah,
but
I mean, Belial is like a Satan for many, but I mean, limited perspective. People make things. They don't have the full picture.
Of course.
It's all context. Every context limits you, right? By definition, your environment can't be everything.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, Philip K. Dick was kind of a Catholic oriented, Christian oriented mindset.
Yeah. Plus, he was writing a novel about the Kabbalah, so he had to use a Kabbalah bad guy just to have a bad guy, right?
And of course, the Bishop Pike part, right? You know, yeah.
The Dead Sea Scrolls. Awesome. Well, this has been incredible. We've enjoyed it. For the audience, you guys in the chat room, great questions. When I look, great comments. I in corner of my eye, somebody was asking, how does Alanis Morissette fit into this? Maybe next time, David. Somebody did know that Ronnie James Dio was dead. Unfortunately, he left this world years ago, and we still miss his music very much.
Yeah.
So,
very good singer.
Oh, amazing singer. But yeah, great remarks, comments by everybody. Audio version will be out. If you're listening on audio version, obviously it's out. But we did record this on St. Patrick's Day, but it should be there tomorrow. For those of you who need some help with your hangover, listen to the audio version. YouTube version will be out as soon as we close this out. It'll be on Rockfin and Odyssey and a few other places. But David, thank you very much, as always.
Thank you for having me, Miguel. I hope you understand my English. I'm sorry I was a little bit rusty
it's
today.
great.
I mean,
no problems at all. No. I think
sometimes
it's better.
a little hard to find words, but I will be better.
Better than my
Hercules.
English.
I had trouble understanding your pronunciation of Hercules. It took me a second.
Hercules.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a guy called Heracles as well. Maybe.
Oh, is that a different guy? Heracles?
Yeah, it's like.
Oh, my mistake. Okay.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I hope your audience have enjoyed it. And
They did. And Vince, thank you for keeping us company too.
My privilege to help all our viewers out there.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody. Really appreciate your company. Always appreciate your support. Enjoy the rest of this day of hopefully not driving out snakes, because snakes are good as a symbol, as medicine, as anything. You heard that, St. Patrick. And enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as I always say, write your own gospel, live your own myth. We shall talk soon. Take care, everybody.